the takeaway for me and talking to other people who may be in my situation, you may think you're fit, or as Pat Sherwood used to call the display model only.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's not enough. I always love that. The DMO,
Yeah.
it's stressing the importance of not relying solely on that. Like everybody should
Hmm.
just go get a baseline check on all of your markers, just see where you're landing right now, because I know it's fluid and things can change, but you need to know. And
Hmm.
it helped me make better decisions about, what I was doing with my diet, even how I was working out. And when we were planning for a family, like things that you need to do.
Hello, and welcome to Pursuing Health. I'm Dr. Julie Fouché, family physician and former CrossFit Games athlete. Here, I bring you information and inspiration to help bridge the gap between fitness and medicine and support your journey toward your healthiest self. I was very excited to welcome Jenn Hunter-Marshall to the podcast in this episode. Jenn is a CrossFit Level 4 coach. She's a seminar staff flow master, an affiliate owner, and a former CrossFit Games athlete as well. And in this episode, we shared a very candid conversation about some of the health challenges that she's experienced over the years, including a challenging diagnosis with celiac disease and her journey with infertility and pregnancy complications. And Jenn really opens up and shares about her experiences and what helped her to overcome some of these challenges, including the importance of advocating for yourself within the medical system and why it's so important for everyone, no matter how fit you are, to get your labs and biomarkers checked regularly. I really enjoyed connecting with Jenn, and I just love her willingness to share and be vulnerable about some of these very sensitive topics because she really has a passion for using her own story to help other people. Hope you enjoy as well. Now, before we dive into the episode, I do want to make it clear that this podcast is for general information only and does not provide medical advice. I recommend that you seek assistance from your personal physician for any health conditions or concerns. With that, let's get to the episode. Welcome to Pursuing Health. I'm really excited to be here today with Jenn Hunter-Marshall. And I've talked about on the podcast several times my CrossFit Level 1 and how much that seminar changed my life. And Jenn was one of the trainers at that seminar. So it's really cool to come full circle and have you here to be able to share your story.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, I thought we could start with the classic question of how did you start CrossFit? How did you get into it?
So it was a case of FOMO.
Oh, all right.
So this was early 2006, and we just moved out to Colorado. Dennis Marshall, my now husband, but then boyfriend, and he talked me talked me into leaving New York to follow him to Colorado.
Okay.
It's this story of sort of people who come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. He was managing a gym in Greeley, which is known for cows, I guess, in Colorado.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it, but I heard that there's sometimes smell. But anyway, he got a job. He wanted to get out of New York and insurance, and there was a guy walked into his gym and said, "Have you ever heard about CrossFit?" And he's like, "No, what is it?" And that was the extent of their relationship.
Wow.
And then read everything that he could get his hands on, came home. I was like, "We need to do this." And I was like, "What is this?" And he was like, full on. I paid half of his level 1 deposit.
Okay.
Paid this deposit for his level 1. And then I dipped my toes in. I was like, well, if he's doing it, maybe I can do it better. And that's how
That's right. So FOMO, or you just wanted to be competitive and beat your boyfriend.
That was it. I was like, okay, something we can do together. And then that's been pretty much our story. So
the rest is history.
And that's it. Level 2, and we got tapped to be on seminar staff. I think because we made a good team, but we also complemented each other in terms of our personalities. So it worked out well because we worked together a lot.
That's so awesome. I didn't realize that you worked so many seminars together. That's really cool.
Yeah, sometimes it's fun. Now, we're both flow masters. So we get the email, like, who's going to be in charge this weekend? You got to listen to me this weekend.
I get to make the rules.
Yeah. Nah, it's fun, but he loves it. He's like, you're in charge. Okay. Timeline. Okay.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. So were you both really into fitness, working out before you started CrossFit? What was your background prior?
So I ran track in high school, and then I got an Army ROTC scholarship to college, Air Force and Army. And I ended up taking the Army to go to William and Mary. And so that PT became my sport then. So I didn't do it in college, but at the same time, I was like a senior in high school. After I got my scholarship, I ended up having an undiagnosed, or not undiagnosed, but autoimmune issue. So I got really sick, but I could still function. There were just like some things that they couldn't quite put together what was wrong. And it didn't manifest fully until I got to college. And so I ended up not finishing. I did 2 years of the ROTC scholarship and then tried to deal with some health issues. And that's kind of started my journey into health and fitness because of that first, not even first, but the experience with the medical at that time, and like not being able to get a clear diagnosis and just being told like really strange things. Like I developed, I took a shower once and I ended up getting like hives all over the water hit. They're like, oh, well, it seems like you have an allergy to water. That's what somebody told me. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't.
I think I need that to live.
Like, don't get wet. What do you mean don't get wet? Walk around. I'm like in college, I'm a girl, you're around, trying to date and all those things. I can't stink. What am I supposed to do? So,
I took a shower. Oh my goodness.
Like, don't do that. So weird things like that. And I ended up with the initial diagnosis was scleroderma.
Okay.
But I only had a few like markers or indicators that might suggest that that was what it was. And so struggled with that and was on some steroids and things and making you gain weight. And so that's really when I got into like working out, but it was just that part of it. I didn't get into like how food and other parts of health is related to fitness. That's the only part that I tapped into at first. And then fast forward to, I think this is prior to CrossFit, probably 2004, 5-ish. I was suffering from another autoimmune issue with eczema, which I've had all my life.
Okay.
And just to the point where my face would flake, just disfiguring, I felt, and like not getting any help from any dermatologist. They're just like, take this.
Here's a cream.
Basically a cream. And I remember walking down Fifth Avenue in New York City, just crying because I couldn't get any relief.
Yeah.
At that time, I was turned on to she was considered a functional nutritionist at the time. So I was kind of like,
which is early before this was widely available.
Yeah. And she helped me like put on some juice fasting kind of thing. And we didn't get to the root of the problem, but changing my diet, I knew things changed, like everything cleared up, but I couldn't live off juices forever. but it was eliminating like processed food. Now I know more. And then 2006, we move out to Colorado and find CrossFit. I start reading the journals and hear about paleo and all these things. I'm like, oh, okay, this is how I should eat. And like really changing and like putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, that but still not having everything. And that changed. So I was feeling better, looking better, but I was still having some nagging like stomach issues every once in a while. Because on the weekends.
Sure.
Like weekends, 80% of the time you're good, 20% you're bad. So I had that part down. And then I think it was 2009, I was diagnosed with celiac.
Okay.
I finished that because I was just in pain all the time, having swelling. And I was told that it was all in my head. I need to see a psychiatrist.
Oh my gosh.
but then when I got that diagnosis, all of the issues I had since I was a child
started to
made
clear
sense.
up.
And
Yeah.
that is the root of, I have many autoimmune issues.
Yeah.
And so, and then going into trying to start a family. So Dennis and I got married in 2008, and the height of our CrossFit, we were traveling all around the world.
Yeah.
So you think you have time. You're like, you know what? I got a sub 4-minute friend. I'm fit. All these things.
Yeah, I'm totally fit.
I'm good. I'm not one to, I'm going to be fine. I'll have kids at 35 and everything will be good.
Yeah.
And then things weren't happening. And you still think, okay, I'm competing. I was doing regionals every year. So I think I got time and doing the thing. And then finally slowed down and started to look to see what was happening. And then got bumped up against another wall. Like, oh, there's a problem. It turns out I had silent endometriosis, which is another autoimmune disorder, which can contribute to infertility. And then, so we went through like 5 or 6 years of infertility treatments, not working.
Wow.
And not until 2017, I had my son. And then 2019, I had my daughter, but in my 40s. So it was like some 37 till 40.
A long journey. Yeah.
A long journey. Whereas if I had all that information that I found out along the way earlier on, perhaps it would have changed the course of things, perhaps. But
wow.
We land where we land, and so I'm very happy with my little family. They're here, but it definitely was not an easy journey.
Not an easy journey, and not straightforward, and very long. And there's so much that I want to unpack there, but I want to kind of go back just because I think you said, these symptoms that you'd had even since childhood, but really when they started to affect, to the point where you had to scale back on school a little bit in college, that was probably, it sounded like 6 or 7 years from that point until you actually got a celiac disease diagnosis, which is a long time. And I know that even back then, I would say probably people weren't checking for it as often as they are now. And now it's more probably widely known about, but just to understand kind of what you went through and the symptoms that you were experiencing and what that period was like for you.
It was tough because you felt alone. Like I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, colitis, Crohn's at one point.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, and prescribed medication. And I remember one medication they put me on, I think I had it for a day, and they called my mother and told her to tell me to stop taking it because it'd been pulled.
Oh, wow.
I was like, whoa.
Like, okay. So and probably most of those medications were to address the symptoms, right? Like, so for irritable bowel, they might be to control like pain or cramping, or, for, like we said, for skin, it's probably to dampen your immune system so that you can resolve the skin rashes you're seeing, but none of them were really addressing the root cause, which was the gluten in your case.
Right. And masking it. And the scleroderma diagnosis, all of the symptoms that I was having, I had hair loss. I had lesions on my skin. Like I had scarring, probably, I had a rough estimate, about 75% of my body had like bruises or like scabby type of.
Wow.
Remember, like I would not leave the house because it affected my face.
Yeah.
And as a young girl, you're, the teenage years going into the early 20s.
Those are hard enough as it is. Yeah.
And I wore a wig. I used to pretend to be one of the AHA girls. This is how old I am. You said, I think it was Pepsi or Coca-Cola, with Ray Charles had the AHA girls behind it. But it was like either that or a Romulan. Any Star Trek fans out there. But that's what it kind of looked like to cover it up. But I tried to make it do the best that I could with a tough situation. And there was, I don't know if it was a result of medication or just whatever autoimmune issue I had. There was at one point I lost the pigment in my skin.
Oh, geez.
which was crazy. My grandmother came to visit, and she said, "You turned into Michael Jackson," as a joke. But it wasn't vitiligo, but my skin became so transparent, paper thin. It was like, and
wow.
so, and I still worry about that because I didn't get a true diagnosis. They had ideas. I was like, is that going to come back? How is that going to affect other things? So that happened, and you just feel alone. Again, the hardest thing, and the support of my family was the only thing that helped me get through it. And my father just saying, you keep your head up. You have no reason to put your head down. You should be proud of who you are, because it became just a coping mechanism to just turn into myself and just being kind of an introvert and isolate myself because I was so distraught just to how I physically looked. And
absolutely.
So that's
well,
tough.
and to feel like nobody could really help, but then also, like you said, some doctors were saying, "Oh, this is all in your head, or you need to see a psychiatrist." I can only imagine how that must have felt.
It's tough because I know other people who may have experienced stuff where doctors say you just need to talk it out, and you're like, no, this is real. Like, out of my head. I did not create this from my mind. Like, you feel like you're going crazy.
Yeah.
We didn't have access like the internet back then, and like being able to search for things or find I guess that's it. Didn't have access to any other stories I couldn't find anybody to relate to what I was going through. So that led to the isolation. But
very cool that through CrossFit, though, you were exposed to a lot of new ideas. Like you said, this paleo, and just being able to understand the impact of food. And what was it that finally led you down the path of being diagnosed with celiac disease?
Just again, being disappointed in the care the traditional care that you get for the doctor. Like, something's wrong. Just help me find it. I know myself. And just finding the right people at the right time. So I talked about how people come into your life for in our lifetime. I've been blessed to have many people who, unfortunately, it was just for that one reason. I don't know. I wish I could thank them because they have blessed me so much. And one was a Dennis, before we opened our gym, was a strength conditioning coach for professional hockey players at a small, when they were off season in New York. And the owner of the facility was ahead of his time, like had a connection to Dr. Linschitz, who opened his own, I guess, functional medicine clinic, I guess is the best way to describe it, in New York. And that was the first time I ever heard of something like that. And there was one of the doctors there. He's like, you need to go. He told Dennis, I'll get you in and see somebody. And that's when I met my first doctor, Dr. Dashiv, and he spent an hour with me, which was unheard of, because every time I went in, like 5-10 minutes, they seemed like they were bored and ready to get me out of there. And a whole hour, I mean, it was out of pocket because that's just how it was.
Right.
Like, get everything out. And even before he did any blood work, say, based on what you're saying, I'm going to guess at the best, you have some type of gluten intolerance. Worst, you have celiac. But we're going to do this test and figure out what's going on. On top of that, he found I had hypothyroid, adrenal fatigue, my cortisol levels were high, a whole bunch of things were going on. But based on the blood work that I got from the previous traditional doctor I had, I was fine. And also my A1C was high.
Wow.
He said, because they don't look for it, like, I wasn't pre-diabetic, but I was towards it. It's like, we need to look at trends in the numbers. I want to address this now versus
before it becomes,
And of course, I've been doing CrossFit. I'm healthy. I got some good times on my workals.
Right.
On CSI, this should not be the case.
This is not adding up.
And, I'm not overweight. Or, girls, they're like, oh, maybe I could vanity 3 pounds. But anyway, But I was shocked. But I have a family history of adults in my family as they get older becoming diabetic. So he says, yes, there's genetic component, but I don't want to rely on that. Like I treat you and the numbers. And I was like, okay. And I was with him for many, many years, and he helped get me to closer to fit. I'm doing the nutrition course right now.
On our sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. Yes. He helped move that needle.
Move the needle and recognize the importance of looking at all of those health metrics as well. I wasn't doing that. I was looking at, my deadlift and my hands-on workouts and how I felt, which is subjective. If you don't have that's something, but what else is going on? And help me move my numbers, my health markers that direction. Work with him for many years.
That's amazing. And so many great points in there, one being that just because, your fitness markers are good, we have to take everything into consideration. That sickness, wellness, fitness continuum is based on all of the markers that you can possibly measure. So, looking at your performance markers is important, but we also want to see where everything else is. And I bet too, how those numbers probably mirrored your symptoms. I would expect that as those started to improve, your symptoms started to improve also. And that concept too of really trying to be proactive and catch things before they become a problem versus how most of our conventional system acts, which is let's wait around until you develop a disease before we do anything about it.
And I guess the takeaway for me and talking to other people who may be in my situation, you may think you're fit, or as Pat Sherwood used to call the display model only.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's not enough. I always love that, the DMO.
Yeah.
It's stressing the importance of not relying solely on that. Like everybody should just go get a baseline check on all of your markers, just see where you're landing right now, because I know it's fluid and things can change, but you need to know. And it helped me make better decisions about, what I was doing with my diet, even how I was working out. And when I started we were planning for a family, things that you need to do that you're not account. So,
So as you started working with him, what were some of first, what did you notice as you eliminated gluten from your diet completely?
Felt a lot better. So I got most of the way following the paleo. Like when I started doing that in 2006, 7, but I was having those still pizza or burgers like that on the weekends. So he was like, you can't have that anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. But you're
like, darn it.
I felt better. I performed better. Getting my thyroid under control. Like that was another thing that I wasn't expecting. I was like, I'm tired, but I work out a lot. And I was a trainer. I got up early in the morning. So I'm just tired because I work a lot of hours. And so once I got that figured out, I felt so much better. And head cleared, had more energy for workouts. Actually, my numbers improved even more. My fitness markers.
Of course. Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's what I noticed. And I still continue to work on my numbers. So I get blood work done every 3 to 6 months, just to make sure everything is still trending in the right direction. So far, I'm good. I get blood work done next week just to make sure everything is still good. But I have a new doctor, unfortunately, Mr. D. I call him Dr. D. He had passed away a year and a half ago. So, but he got me through a lot, and was a pioneer at the time because he was the only one. Now there's a lot.
So many,
It's amazing.
That's amazing.
Just to have a conversation with the doctor, it was like, wow, just to sit and talk and
just to hear your whole story, like you said, to sit for an hour and to really hear everything.
And to ask more questions versus being told what to do. I think that's a big difference in like finding the right, whether it's a functional medicine doctor, just finding a good doctor who's not going to be like, well, you need to do this and you need to take this because this is what I think you have. He was always, and even my current doctor is like, well, how do you feel? What do you notice? You're more of a collaboration, which is I think it should be.
It should be, right? You're the expert in your body, right? You're living in it. That's amazing. Through the years of working with those doctors, has there been anything else that's really moved the needle for you in terms of changes you've made or other interventions you've done that have helped as much as, I don't know, as much, but similar to removing gluten?
Let me see. Not that I can think, it's just like tweaking, I think now.
Like fine tuning.
Really big changes, like doing what I done, like an elimination diet I just did recently. Which was interesting because I eat a lot of eggs, and I found out now I've developed an allergy or at least a sensitivity to eggs, to take that out because I was starting to have some gut related issues and how important gut health is. Like I didn't think about that as much. I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing fine eating these things, but even good things that you consider as good for you may cause issues. So eliminating those things and getting the right support for my gut health. And that made a tremendous.
And those things can change over time too, right? Like earlier in life, eggs might not have caused you a problem, but now they do. And maybe there'll come a day where you can tolerate them much better. That was something that happened for me personally. There was a period where I couldn't eat eggs probably for like 5 or 6 years. But I've luckily been able to add them back in because I love eating eggs. So there's still hope for you.
There's still hope. It can come back. I was like, come back. Because that was I was eating them every day because they were stable. And I've heard of that where people become sensitive to certain, especially if there's not a lot of variety. So that's the thing that came up for me because I'm a creature of habit.
Yeah.
To eat the same things every day.
Yeah.
And very particular. And so putting more variety of, it's all good food, but if you eat the same things, then how diverse, just like our exercise you want to do, constantly vary.
Constantly vary, that's right.
Expanding the horizons of my palate. So
right, get comfortable with the uncomfortable outside your comfort zone there. That's great.
Exactly.
That's great.
Go
ahead.
I'm still not too keen on liver, but I said, you need to eat more organ meat. I'm like, no.
That's a tough one. Yeah.
Tough one. If you don't start that young, I don't know.
Unless you're really good at preparing it somehow, but I haven't figured it out yet.
Either.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's amazing. So then let's talk a little bit more about your fertility journey, because as you started to explain, it's been just as long and something that maybe you would have approached differently had you known what you know now. So, when was it that you first, realized that maybe you might be having a problem getting pregnant?
You're trying and you're like, I figure like I'm healthy, something should be happening and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And I remember prior to us even starting to try, we were still dating at the time. So I'll go back a few years, and a client of mine, because before CrossFit, I was a personal trainer and group exercise, did all of that. And one of my private clients, who was, I think she was like 10 years older than me, she was struggling with fertility, actually given up. It wasn't working for them. They were now in their 40s. And she's like, you should freeze your eggs. I was like 30. I was like, yeah, the technology then wasn't as good as it is now. And it was expensive to do. And I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. And she's like, you really should. She shared her story. But of course, if you're not ready to hear it or do anything, you're not engaged yet.
And you don't know. Yeah.
Oh, and, you spend all that time like not trying to be pregnant. You're like, oh
right.
I'll be good. And then forward, and it wasn't happening. And I remember going to visit an OBGYN who I visited her one time, and I didn't respond well to her bedside manner. We'll say that. She was, and she's like, well, you don't go get checked or something like that, you're going to need to see a specialist. And it was just she wasn't very kind about it. She was, and I was like, okay. And I didn't want to hear it because of how the message was delivered, which is something. So then nothing was happening. And it was recommended that I go see a fertility doctor. And that's when the numbers are first checked.
Okay.
FSH came back, and that's your
follicle stimulating hormone. Yeah.
Exactly. Mine was high.
Mm.
And so if it's too high, you're in trouble. Not impossible, but not good. So it was high. And I think my AMH is another one that they check, and that was not good. And we were actually not good candidates for IVF.
Oh, wow.
Because what I found out from reading, and I don't know for sure, but people say that clinics they want to keep their success rate high. So I would be a good candidate based on my numbers. So that
interesting.
That's what I heard. Don't know for sure, but they weren't trying to allow us to do it. And we're paying everything out of pocket too. And we found a renegade IVF. He was like outside of the mainstream. So we went like holistic route. I spoke to somebody, she was a women's clinic that was like, if we change your diet and take some vitamins, this thing, we tried that. And she's like, oh, here's this other doctor. Well, he'll do IVF on anybody if you pay the money. Okay.
Like, all right.
Like, what was I thinking? So we went through 5 rounds of 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
That was tough.
Those are no joke.
The shots and I remember traveling to seminar, and I hate needles. So Dennis was the one.
Oh, man.
Where he wasn't working with me. So I would have to give the shots myself. Like in between, I remember having to go into the bathroom at a gig to give myself a shot because I had to, it's just crazy. Like the things but I need to work.
Yeah. Yeah. The things that you do.
It was tough. And then I remember 2 times where they do like the egg retrieval. So you go through all of that and there's no guarantee. And they think there's something, but with the timing and all of that, you can get there and then be nothing. And 2 times of the 5, thought we were going to at least retrieve 1 or 2 follicles. They take out nothing.
Wow.
And devastating. And
that's so
bad. You come out of anesthesia and you're like, what? And the woman next to me, she got 22. And I was
oh,
it was weird. The whole situation was just terrible. Like so going through that and then losing the others that were implanted and early on. So I consider them lost. They were mine. I didn't make that many.
Yeah.
So, very tough. And then switching doctors. And then finally, it working. They got 2, changing the protocol. But that's what's even wild out there in the land of fertility, because how one clinic did it versus another, like their protocols. And maybe that was it, or maybe it was just the right time or luck. And then we got the we're done. But just that process was it was financially difficult and just mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
Thank God for CrossFit. Just that I had that as something to not fall back on, but just to help relieve like stress.
It's that outlet, yeah.
But even that at one point I couldn't do, because when you're going through like retrieval or even when they do the transfer, you can't work out. And so the one I always relied on is my therapy. I couldn't do. And so that was tough. And then we made it out the other end, and getting pregnant. I kind of framed my pregnancies as getting pregnant was hard for me. Pregnancy was great. Both of my pregnancies, like during them, fantastic. And then deliveries, not good. So the beginning and the end.
Beginning and the end were not good.
Not good.
Jeez.
And that's where I think CrossFit again came to my rescue. Not that it was CrossFit, but giving me the ability to advocate for myself. And because I developed preeclampsia with my first. My son was born 34 weeks. I had to have emergency C-section because my blood pressure kept going up and they were concerned. And this is my first. And again, like I didn't do any prep. I was like, I got this.
Yeah, I do CrossFit. I do lots of squats. Like I'll be fine.
I'm good. I did at the games as a master. I'm good. And that happened, and you have no control over your body. And it's nothing that I did, because preeclampsia is just response, like it's stress. Pregnancy is the stress in the body, and that's how mine responded. And the only cure is to deliver. And so they tried to induce, but he was early. It was just things didn't align, and so we had the C-section, which was traumatic. And then it was on a holiday weekend. So he was in a separate wing of the hospital. I didn't see him for like a day.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was hard. And I'm hooked up to, was it magnesium or something, having out the boots. So I'm like, can't do anything. And had to have somebody wheel me over to the NICU to go see him, but I couldn't get anybody because they were short.
Oh my goodness.
Hard. And then being afraid of your own body when you can't, like, why is this happening? And if somebody doesn't take medication, now I'm on heart medication for an extended period of time until I could get it back down to normal. And then deciding to do it again. Get pregnant.
Right, like, all right, here we go again.
I was like, no, but I was like, what did I learn from this? Because that's how I am as a person. Like, this happened. Maybe if someone else be like, okay, that's enough. We're done. We're going to go again. But this time I'm going to, get a doula and do all things and make sure. And everything did go well. I had one spike in my blood pressure, but I was admitted. We got it down. I was at home and I made it. But because I had a previous section and I was advanced maternal age,
over 35, which is so old.
What? I look younger than some of these 25-year-olds today. But anyway. But yeah, so my doctor, who I believe I had a good relationship with and was telling me the truth, said that she wanted to deliver me early because of the age, and I had the previous section, but she was willing to let me backtrack. I wanted to try to have a vaginal birth the second time because I felt like I missed a little bit. Like, that wasn't my plan. And I thought I could do it. And she's like, well, we'll see. I'm still going to schedule your section for 37 weeks. And I had a doula, and she was like, well, they want to have it on the books because if you get in there, they want to have the space available. So they're planning for like the worst outcome kind of thing. But you may not be ready at 37 weeks. So they're forcing you in. And so that's going to mean a section again. She's just telling you that. And I was like, oh no. So it was like, talk to my doctor, my doula, what am I going to do? And so something happened with scheduling, and they ended up pushing my section to 39 weeks, which my doula was like, that gives us more time.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And doing everything, I go in, and it was 39 in 4 days. I was admitted to the hospital, and they do. So yay, I made it past the 34 weeks.
And were you admitted were you in labor, or were you going for your scheduled?
Induced.
Okay.
So she said, we'll do the induction and see that she was in position. And they did the induction. They put the folio balloon in. First time with my first, terrible. Didn't get anywhere, but I was like, I can do this, and got in. And so the folio balloon, if anybody doesn't know, they insert to open up your cervix. It's not pleasant.
It does not look like fun.
No, but I was like, Jen, you can do it. You can do it. Like, you can do Fran. You can do you can do Fran. You can do it. Right. We made it happen, and I labored for 2 days.
2 days.
I think that was the cutoff. Like, I was in there for 48 hours, and I dilated 5. And there's still some, like, I have a good friend who was in labor and delivery, and maybe more things could have been done to help. But then I was at the time limit, which once you go in, and I'd heard that in the past, like, they have to get you out. Like, there's not liability, but the chances of things once
having other complications, like infections.
Your water is broken, the risk of infection to the baby and whatnot. So like, okay, we're going to do the section. Disappointed.
So disappointing after everything you went through.
Everything. But I was like, okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
And with the second, so I had all of so in between the first and the second birth, a lot had come up in the news about maternal deaths, specifically with Black mothers. And so I went through a whole pregnancy with that in my head as well. So trying to manage that, like, oh my gosh,
so much.
That boogeyman that if I had never heard it, maybe I wouldn't have been concerned about it. But you need to know so that you can make sure you get the care that you need. So it's so that's going on and freaking out.
Yeah. Yes, you were like 2 days of labor. Yeah.
Labor. Like, what happens if something happens to me? I remember with the first section telling my husband, because we had a member of our gym pass away during labor, a traumatic experience for our gym, and of course for the family of all the women that knew her. So I had that going into it, and I remember telling him, please keep our son, like, not like if something happened to me that you wouldn't like give him away, like please take him, because that's that I was afraid. You don't know, you were afraid enough to tell them that. Wow. No, I might not. And so then going through it again, and just it still even now I can remember just being there and everything. It seems so surreal, and then doing it and not feeling I didn't feel like I had the pain management that I should have had. I felt everything. I remember yelling at the anesthesiologist, I need more. Whatever it is you're giving me, this is not enough. This is not working. Oh my gosh. I feel. And she's like, oh, just relax. And I was like, which is the worst thing you tell somebody to do when they're in pain. Yeah. Level 100. I was like, you're telling me to relax? And I remember the doctor, she was down there, she's like talking, she's like, oh, she's big. She hadn't even taken her out yet. My daughter was big. And I was like, what does that mean? And I kept saying fudge. Anesthesiologist says, why do you keep saying fudge? I was like, because I don't want my daughter's first word to be fudge. I can still humor, even though I'm sure at least you gave them a laugh. Yeah. So she's out. She's fine. I get to, but then they whisk her away. Yeah. And so I'm there and they finish doing what they have to do with me. And I end up, I guess all of their rooms were full. So I was in a recovery hallway. Oh my gosh. Oh, it was on medication, and I didn't get to skin to skin. So I didn't get to nurse her right away. And it was at that time, as soon as I got to my room, I believe there was some issues with my blood pressure. And you're like, oh gosh, here we go again. But then I was like, fine. They, was in, I did my 4 days. I was released, went home. So I was released like 11 a.m. I noticed my feet swelling, but I had major surgery. So, things drain. Yeah. Took a picture, showed my doctor. She's like, put your feet up. It's probably, just swelling. And I was like, okay. I had no symptoms of anything, just the swelling. But I've taken my blood pressure because I know that's an issue. Everything started to creep up a little bit. I think it was like 10 o'clock that night. I was told if you get 140 over 80, call a doctor. Okay. And I was like 140 over, like, if I remember correctly, like 70, getting close. I was like, I don't want to call my doctor and be a pain. It's like, that's me. Like, I don't have blurry vision. I don't have a headache. My feet are a little swollen, but I'm sure okay. I take it again and it's up a little higher, like 150 over 85. And one of our members, who's a labor delivery nurse that I mentioned, she just happened to text me to see how I was doing. And again, she's my angel. She's still in my life. So that other, she was like, all right, wait 5 minutes and take it again. And it went up, and I still haven't heard back from my doctor, who I text her service. And she's like, all right, this is what you need to do. You need to go back to the labor and delivery floor. And I was like, what? Really? I mean, I feel fine. She's like, no, go now.
Wow.
And so I just got home that day with a new baby, and I
Yeah.
also have a 2-year-old. And
It's like, I can't just leave here.
and Dennis is home. My mom had just gotten into town, and Dennis had to drive me back to the hospital. It was 11 o'clock at night. He's like, I can't go in with you. You have to go up there, and I got the kids at home. I got to go home and help your mother. We have a
with
40
the newborn and
and a 2-year-old. And he's like, call me if, they release you, we'll figure out how to get you home.
Yeah.
All right. And I go up there, and their first question is like, are you pregnant? And I was like, no, I had a baby. And
been there, done that. Yeah.
Floor, but I'm not pregnant anymore, but I was told to come back here.
Yeah.
They're like, what? And they finally take me into the triage room to monitor everything. And I think the next time I saw them take my blood pressure, I was like 200 over 100.
Jeez.
And I was like, whoa. And
that's scary.
But I felt again, like I felt
okay. If you had not checked it, you would have been at home. You wouldn't have even known.
And I said that to the nurse. I was like, oh, I feel so silly. And this is the first time like the gravity of it all hit me. She's like, honey, if you had waited longer, you could have stroked out, and that could be it. And I was like, whoa. And it took me a long time to like
process that. Yeah.
Process all that. And so I was readmitted, and I ended up in the same room that I've been in. This is like, you're back.
Right back here.
Back here. And I was in the hospital for another week to like figure out how to manage my blood pressure. And it took, again, having an advocate within the system to help me, because my OBGYN, she's in the business of like helping you deliver or pregnancy, not after. I'm not pregnant anymore, and my blood pressure is still high. And so my friend who was a nurse like pushed to get the cardiologist on board. And so then they came, and we're trying to work to figure out the best strategies to like help me. And so it was a long journey, and that like 5-6 months after that, I was still being monitored for like blood pressure. But then I think about women who have not been as lucky. And what's the difference? And the only thing that I come up with is I had somebody that was my, not gateway, but just my voice, or just had the information I didn't have to make sure I got the care that I needed. And everybody should get that. It shouldn't be, I shouldn't be like a lone case. Like if that, I don't know all the details of the other cases when something has happened. Some of the stories I've read where at least the mother was Black, that she wasn't listened to. And then by the time they were listened to, I remember one case in particular, it was too late. And she died. And being able to communicate effectively with the when I went back in, and pushing like, no, I need to be seen. It's not right. And my friend, and giving her name because they knew her. They're like, oh, okay. But everybody didn't have a friend like that.
Right.
And I
what if she hadn't texted you that night?
I would still be sitting on the couch. And that, it just
that's scary.
Day. And I don't know that she knows how much I love her, and thank her every day that I'm here.
Yeah.
I might not have been had it not been for her. Wow. So anyway, that's
wow.
So I'm here, and doing okay. Clearly pregnancy is not, I'm done.
Twice was enough for you.
Like my heart and my body can tolerate anymore. If it happens now, then God must want it to happen, because I will leave it all to him.
After all you went through,
Wow. But we're thankful, very thankful. So
well, and you have 2 beautiful children, so congratulations, so much to be thankful for there.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a long story. So
Long story, but so much there. And I think especially what you shared at the end is just so true through the whole story, right? Is how much we need advocates through the whole healthcare system, because
Mhm.
whether it was you going through so many years of struggle to finally find someone just to sit and listen to your story and to be able to put those pieces together, or navigating the system through infertility and then childbirth, and just being able to have someone to like really know you and advocate for you, which is so hard the more our healthcare system becomes more and more sort of detached, and it becomes more and more um, sort of like a team sport where everybody plays their role, but there's often not one person who's really like there for you with you every step of the way.
And you have that one person, and also, failed to mention there were other people that were like, you need a team, because you have
Mm-hmm.
one person just sees one part of the picture.
Right.
Like at least the second pregnancy, I understood the importance of having like a pelvic floor specialist, all of these things. Like
Yeah.
when I was gonna try to have the vaginal birth that I wanted, like
Yeah.
I needed help. I couldn't just, rely on Fran. So
Right. Though Fran will help, but
Fran will help,
you need
but
more.
that's not
Yeah.
it. That's not everything. So I created a team, and between my doula, I made special connections with some pelvic floor specialists, some other women that just
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I had the support that I needed to even like heal afterwards, because that's
Mm-hmm.
difficult. And after you give birth, it's kind of like
Yeah.
you're like done. We got the baby out.
Right. And
You're on
now
your own.
what? Right.
Now what? I'm
And
like,
how you like that was something that you had to figure out yourself, right? Like after you said you learned some things from the first pregnancy, and you learned, okay, maybe I need to find this or that team member, or maybe it was through, I don't know if it was through CrossFit or someone that you learned about pelvic floor specialist, or like who do I need on my team? And those things aren't always presented as options. So,
right.
I wish that every woman um, had that advocate to say, like, let's look at your situation and who are the team members that we need to be able to
Yeah.
help you.
And there are people out there. I wish, like, if I was 20 years younger, I would speak to my 20-year younger self, like
Yeah.
knowing what I wanted in the future. Like I knew that I wanted to have kids eventually, like
Yeah.
preparing, like I think my passion now and trying to figure out a good way to not position myself, but to share and maybe help other women is like, it starts before you're trying to get pregnant, like all of those
Mm-hmm.
things, and lining up the people that you need. And Melissa Reed, who's on staff, had been through not the same experience as me, but just pushed me in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And like, these are people that you need to see, and different trainings that
Mm-hmm.
I went through. And it's a lifelong kind of thing that you go through. It's not as brief as I thought it was. Like, yeah, 9 months, and then everything
Yeah.
rosy.
Now I'm a mom. Yeah.
It's not. There's a lot more involved in that, and then even the recovery from all of
Mm-hmm. The postpartum, and yeah.
them is real, and the blues and all of that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's mhm.
That's a beautiful thing that you had other women who were able to help you that had been through parts or similar situations. And I think especially as women, like there are so many different phases, like you said, like in your younger years, and then going through fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, eventually menopause. Like there's so many different life stages that we go through as women, and to be able to help each other navigate that, I think is so important.
It's important, and putting together like maybe a toolkit for
Yeah.
all for
Yeah.
all ladies. Like, these are the things that you need to know about, and
Yeah.
whatever you do with them, at least you need to know about like where you stand on certain things. Like, you graduate from high school, you get like your diploma, or whatever. I don't know what we would call it, but womanhood.
Yeah.
These are things that you need to check in on. And
Absolutely.
some young ladies said, well, I'm not thinking about kids yet. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you may not be thinking about them yet, but you need to plan for them now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Just like all the important things that you don't learn in school, right? Like about finances and
uh, yeah,
periods and all kinds of stuff.
they can do now. Like, now they can freeze eggs and do all of that. But like finding the right place and like,
Yeah.
how do you do all that? And yeah, there's a lot to navigate. And, but thankfully, I think I've done all right figuring things out on the fly and as they came up. So
yeah, I think you've done really well, really well. You mentioned a couple of things specific to your experience as a Black woman going through this whole process. Are there things that you would like, just for anyone else who's maybe a healthcare provider listening, or other Black women who are navigating, going through health issues, dealing with the healthcare system? Like, what would you like to share there?
I think, I never thought about it until I heard about it, per se. Like sometimes until that thought is put in your head, you assume that you're receiving the best that you should get, and maybe not. People make assumptions about you, and it may be unconscious. I like to believe that everybody is trying to do the best that they can.
I think most people, I would hope, at least in healthcare, most people are trying to.
But I guess for other Black women, I would say, if you're about to go through the journey that I'm going through, make sure you fully, you can switch doctors. You can do all these things. If you don't feel comfortable, make sure you're comfortable and that they're listening to you.
Yeah.
That you're aware of potential risks that may be out there and you plan for them. Like, we can't eliminate all risk. Like, even with CrossFit, minimize the best that we can. It is supposed to be a happy time, so you don't want to be thinking negatively, but you want to plan for those things. So finding the right doctor who listens to you, who's not going to brush you aside and be like, "Oh, you're fine."
Yeah.
Like, when you're not fine.
Yeah.
And you everybody, I think, has a feeling about somebody when they meet them, whether or not, like, don't dismiss it. Like, listen to those little voices and get a different doctor. if it comes down to that.
Absolutely.
And then, getting the support you need. I tell everybody, see a pelvic floor PT. You need to. And people are like, oh, brush it off. Insurance. If you can financially, because sometimes out of pocket, I highly recommend it. My friends, they're now friends. Have been like invaluable to me in terms of my recovery and just feeling okay. Like, it was a traumatic experience I went through, and like, no, you're good. And then if you're an athlete, is on top of that, you want to make sure you can return back to the things that you enjoy. So that's important, because it's like, okay, in 10 weeks, you can start walking and whatever.
Right.
I'm like, I want to, do these other things, navigate all of that part. So finding, there's courses out there now that kind of help women steer, get back into fitness afterwards. So a lot of resources out there. So I steer women towards those resources and help how I can to have a good recovery. So I guess that's the big thing. Like, advocate for yourself, trust your gut,
and listen to that intuition. Yeah, it is a powerful thing.
Build your team, and don't be too scared. That's me. I get like nervous.
Right, like plan, but don't let the fear overtake you. Yeah,
exactly. Just plan, and that's all we can do.
It's amazing. Any specific resources that you would like to share that you found helpful or that you recommend for women?
I have I have a friend. And it escapes me. I'll have to send it to you. But it's Mom Wit Return. She has a site, but her name is Tanya, and she's a midwife, and she really helped me a lot. She does a lot of work in they call them catching babies.
Yes. Yeah.
And how her total number of catches, but she has catch, and now she just supports women. She doesn't practice, I don't think, midwifery anymore. She's not catching, but she help is a great resource. And there's other sites out there. I know the Physio Detective,
Anthony. Yeah, he's got a lot of info.
Great. I attended his course when I was like 7 months pregnant.
Oh wow!
Rounds, but it was. I mean, helps tremendously in terms of how I even train other people. Like, what about this? Asking more questions. So it's helpful as a resource, and that I've used personally. So those are two for sure. And trying to think some other ones. There's many out there. So whatever you look into, ask questions, and if you're not getting the right answer, then go somewhere else. Like, don't be afraid. Don't take the first thing that somebody offers you at first blush. Just do your research, I guess, like with everything, and plan.
Yes, you don't
that's plan, then, but you can only plan so much. What is it? What does Mike Tyson say? Everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the face.
That's right. That's right. You never know when you're going to get punched, right?
You never know, but at least you're better prepared and set up for success. But those are two that branched off and gave me access to other people that have been a part of my team. So
that's great. Well, I would love to start wrapping up with 3 questions I ask everyone at the end of the podcast. So one is, what are the 3 things that you do now on a regular basis that have the biggest positive impact on your health?
I do yoga every morning.
Oh, I love that.
So I do 20 to 30 minutes. I meditate for 10 to 30 minutes once or twice a day. And the third is exercise, doing CrossFit. And of course, like, love on my little family. So I add that for it.
Yeah, you've got to use that. That's amazing. I love that. What about one thing that you think would have a big impact on your health, but you have a hard time implementing it, or something you're working on?
Working on the sleep part. Well, partly because
that's hard with 2 little ones.
I have not slept in 4 years. So but I need to do better. That's one that my doctor and I are continuing to work on. Like, you need to get more sleep. But I'm a night owl, and that's when I'm most creative. Unfortunately, my children they get up. So
it doesn't really work.
That one. So hopefully that'll, help keep me going in the right direction.
That's great. Last question is, what does a healthy life look like to you, Jen?
Healthy life. Good food, good friends, and lots of love. That's a healthy life for me.
I love it. Good food, good friends, and lots of love. That's perfect.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully, I hope everybody has that in their life, because
yes, that's what it's all about, right? Love it. Well, thank you so much. I have really enjoyed listening to your whole story, and I just appreciate how courageous you are for sharing it, because you've been through so much and had to have so much patience and endurance to be able to get to where you are today. And I just hope that, from here on out, you have a very positive experience with your health and the healthcare system, and just enjoy being with those little ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me so much. And, hope everybody, they may see me as in a certain light, but everybody has a story.
Yeah.
And, don't ever forget that. So extend grace to everyone you see, and don't assume anything about anybody, because you never know.
That's so true. That's so true. And I think that, one of those big takeaways that I'm taking away from this is also that idea of, just because you're fit and you're doing all the things right, doesn't mean you're immune from having complications to your health. And it's always important to get checked out, make sure you're doing everything you can.
Adversity. I think we talked about that one other time. If not me, then who? Like, I wanted to believe I'd have like the beautiful experience, be pregnant, all those things. But I feel like CrossFit, that's a part of it, but just my commitment to health and fitness make me strong enough to deal with those things, where somebody who doesn't have that base or foundation might not have been. So I had to turn that negative thought into a positive by saying, like, why not me instead of why me? So try to do that more often.
Absolutely. And how you turn it into a positive by being an advocate for other people and sharing your story. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoy listening to the podcast, please consider subscribing and giving it a 5-star rating on iTunes. It really does help to get the word out to more people.